I know a lot about TV, I know a lot about film, I know a lot about Philadelphia Phillies baseball, and I know a lot about hip hop. And those last two, as a woman, when it comes to sports and when it comes to hip hop specifically, men like to quiz you. They like to see if you really know what you're talking about. Are you really representing in the way that we would like? And yeah, I was just like, why do I have to be quizzed about something that I'm a part of? Like, it's a part of our culture, it's a part of American history, it's a part of our world, it's something that we helped create, and specifically the actual physical women and innovators who were there, or the foremothers prior to the 1970s. Like, let's not just treat these amazing men who, we credit with this creation as the only people who were a part of the foundations of hip hop.
Hey, I'm Cam Sakara. Welcome to the Angle of Sound podcast. Today I have with me a very special guest. She is founder and CEO of the Gumbo, a club formed by Black women who love hip hop. She's also author of book First Things First, Hip Hop Ladies Who Changed the Game. I'd like to give a warm welcome to Nadirah Simmons.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I just wanted to start off just with kind of your musical background. So, in the words of Brown Sugar, when did you fall in love with hip hop?
I feel like, and actually, I talked about this in the book too. I feel like hip hop has kind of always been something I've enjoyed. My parents love hip hop. My grandpa, he loved hip hop. My uncle loves hip hop. Like, everybody is just such a big fan. And I always say one of my earliest memories is being in the car with my dad, like in the back seat and rapping. Just like popular songs and kind of like knowing the words to every single song. So I think for me, it's just something that's always really been like a part of me, and I've been a fan of it.
Okay. And so, like, I know you're from Burlington, New Jersey, right? Which is a
Yep,
suburb of
Jersey.
Philly. So
Yes.
you said you like grew up exposed to house music and Jersey club, but you said your grandfather also put you onto like Philly soul. Um,
Yes.
your mom's from Maryland, correct?
Yes. How
Uh,
did
I
you got
watched
it
your
all
interviews.
down?
So you said you learned like go-go from her. And so how did your knowledge of these other genres of music inform the way you listened to and appreciated hip hop and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, being from South Jersey, I think anyone, especially from the area that I'm from, it's so close to Philly that like you'll see behind me, like I have like state property vinyl on my wall. Like I love everything about Philly, about the city, and specifically with the music. So even if I was like with my dad and I would hear a song with my mom and I would hear a song, then I would get in the car with my grandpa and he would play the sample from that song, and it was just like so connected that I really, I don't know, I just became so interested in kind of knowing like the background of all these different genres, knowing how they all connect, but then also knowing the artist. So, okay, I want to know the artist that I'm listening to now, but I also want to know the foundational artist. So I got really into Philadelphia Soul and the OJs and Teddy Pendergrass and Phyllis Hyman, like everything that came out of Philadelphia International Records. Those are some of my favorite albums and artists of all time. And then with Go-Go, I mean, when I would go to Maryland or to Virginia to see family, they're from Maryland and we're listening to that music. My cousins are putting me on to CCB and other bands that are playing go-go. So I really kind of had it all just like meshed in. And then growing up in that part of South Jersey where you're getting kind of, it's similar to, I would say, kind of in North Jersey, you're so close to New York, so there's so much that's passing through there culturally, and the same in South Jersey. Instead, it's just a different city that's close to you where all of that culture is passing through. So I just learned so much about those genres, and then because my parents love music so much, like there's a picture of me at like 6 years old, like throwing up like the West Side. And I'm like, why did I know that at the time? But it's because my parents listened to all genres of music, and they specifically put me onto so many different types of hip hop. So I have a deep respect for hip hop that comes from all different regions. I'm a big fan of regional hip hop. I like when people sound different. I like to be able to tell where you're from. I don't want everyone sounding the same. I can't stand that. So yeah, it's really kudos to my mom and dad. Love them for really putting me on. And then my pop who really made sure that I knew all of these legends in the same way that my parents did as well, but getting to hang with him and we're like listening to the OJs like kind of like on repeat was very formative for me.
That's nice, like being exposed to all of that like in your family.
Yeah. They're the best.
Yeah, that's super nice. And so I know like outside of just hearing hip hop in the car, you said your dad owned a hip hop clothing store, your uncle owned a barbershop that played hip hop and had hip hop debates. You said you used to watch Queen Latifah on Living Single with your mom when she did your hair. So how did experiencing the genre in these different settings and forms deepen your understanding of hip hop, not just as a genre, but as a cultural movement?
Yeah, I mean, I really think it taught me that it was not just music. When even to this day, if I go and hang out with my uncle at the shop, whether they're talking about hip hop or there's music playing, it is kind of like this background noise for everyone getting like their haircut, or it's this kind of like site of discussion, which I really love and appreciate. When I was going to my dad's clothing store, they had a DJ in the store who was in the back and in the corner. So I would hear the music, but then on top of that, like you have these really big hip hop fashion brands that my dad is selling, and they're all around the stores. They used to do custom Air Force Ones in the store. And then on top of that, I'm sitting with my mom and watching TV, and Queen Latifah, for me, of course, at that time, I knew she was a rapper and had rapped. But in my brain, like the first thing was her as an actress, because that's really where I was experiencing her at that time. So I think all of those things, like you said, they really just taught me that hip hop is, yes, it's the music, but it's also this very big umbrella of stuff, which kind of informed the name The Gumbo. When I was trying to figure out what to call it, I knew that I wanted a word that kind of encompassed so many different things coming together, and I knew that gumbo represented that. And people always ask me, like, are you from the South? Are you from New Orleans? Like, nope, not at all. But I just knew that that was the best word to describe what I was feeling and what I wanted to do and what I wanted to convey.
Yeah, that's perfect. And then I know you talk a lot in your book, you talk some about Lady B, but I don't want to assume. So I know across all the different components of hip hop culture growing up, what Black women in hip hop would you say had the biggest impact on you personally?
Oh, Lil' Kim. That's an easy one.
Okay, Lil' Kim.
That's an easy one. I mean, in addition to Lady B, I think anyone who grew up in Philly or South Jersey, you heard her on the radio all the time. Like, her voice was, like, that was like my auntie in my head. Like, I heard her on the radio every day, whether I was coming home from school or heading to practice or doing whatever it was. Like, that was a voice that just was such a big part of my childhood. And Lil' Kim, I just think Lil' Kim is so cool. I think she's so iconic. In the book, I call her the blueprint. There's a reason when you open that book, she is the first face you see with that kind of blueprint image there. Because I really wanted to convey that. I think a lot of times people get caught up in, people want to share pictures of her outfits, or people want to do like side-by-side comparisons of like, oh, she did this and this person did this. And that's all very true and very important. I feel like she has done and contributed so much, but on top of that, and I talk about this in the book as well, she took a lot for women today to be able to do what they can do. And I just admired her so much growing up. I remember going through my mom and dad's CDs and like looking at hardcore and flipping through the album booklet and just feeling like this was the coolest chick I had ever seen in my life. I was like, she's so cool. Then YouTube is around at the time, so now I'm like looking up videos of her on YouTube. Like, there's just so much to Kim that I feel like is so it's not even I feel like I know is so important. I know how much she's given. I know how much she's paved the way. So if I had to pick that person kind of growing up that was formative for me, I would definitely say her. And then as I grew and got older and learned more, a woman like April Walker, who has a chapter in the book, and I was very fortunate to actually come to the book release event and talk to her. Everything you see, from fashion brands to how fashion houses are styling certain things, that story cannot be told within hip hop, and even in larger spaces around fashion, without talking about April Walker, the first woman to have a hip hop fashion brand, and what that meant for her to kind of be this like guiding light for all of the other brands that came after her. You had dudes coming to her for advice and help on how to launch their clothing lines. So yeah, when I think about it, it's women like that. I could say Lauren, she's from Jersey. I'm like, this is a woman who is so beautiful and is not fit into this kind of conventional look or box that you're expected to be fit into. There are so many. But yeah, those would be the ones that immediately like come to my head. And Queen Latifah, because I love TV and film, so getting to see her navigate all those spaces, so cool.
Okay, so you have like ones that like touch different parts.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. And so I know you went to school for journalism. So
Yeah.
in your upbringing, when did your desire to pursue journalism come into the picture?
Honestly, I don't know, because I remember I wanted to be a lawyer, and I'll never forget my grandpa like taking me to some event in Philly where there were like a bunch of lawyers that he knew. And then like a week later, I was like, I don't think I want to be a lawyer anymore. I was probably like 10. Like, I don't remember. So I don't know exactly when I knew specifically that I wanted to be a journalist, but I definitely remember trying to figure out, like, I guess it was at this point, like trying to figure out what my major would be in school, and my parents saying to me, well, you talk a lot and you like to talk, like maybe you should do journalism. And I'm like, oh, okay. So that really was it. And I think it got to a point where, and I tell this story all the time, I knew journalism wasn't for me when I realized that I could not have an opinion on things when I was reporting. I'm very opinionated. I think even with the state of the world now, I think it's so important to have opinions, especially when they're trying to take opinions away from people. So I just knew at that time, even prior to the last couple of years of what we've just observed in our world, I was just like, no, I like to have my opinion. Like, I like to have my thoughts. I like to give my take on something. And I knew that journalism, maybe hard news wouldn't necessarily be it, but maybe music in another space or TV in another way could be how I did that.
And so what was the moment for you, like the pivot where you went from journalism to something else?
I would say once I kind of had that realization that I was like, I like news, but I want to consume news or consume pop culture in a space where you can have an opinion. I applied for an internship at The Daily Show with Trevor Noah and got it. And that was my last internship I had leaving right before I graduated from Rutgers. And it was just perfect because it was literally in line with what I wanted to do. I love TV. I want to have an opinion. I want to be able to talk about pop culture. And I got to work at a place where they're doing exactly that, you know? So that was really it. And then it kind of just like spun off from there. I did a little bit of hip hop journalism. I had an internship doing hip hop journalism for Goodfella Media when I was in undergrad. I did a little bit of writing after school. I think another part of that for me was just like, it was cool and I definitely learned a lot, but I kind of was getting into a point where I wanted to be in a space where I could provide the opportunities for women who look like me to talk about these things. So, yeah.
Okay, and so I know you talked a little bit about working on The Daily Show, and then you worked on the late night show as well.
Yep,
correct?
The Late Show with Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, and so how would you say like these experiences prepared you for the creation of your own platform?
Yeah, they taught me how to communicate really well. They taught me how to be prepared. I always tell people like The Late Show was like college times part 2 for me because I really felt like one, and I always tell people this, I'm so indebted to the people there, some of the nicest, kindest, most gracious, most helpful, and most seasoned people you'll ever meet. To to be around people who have all these Emmys and awards and accolades and decades of television under their belt, and they are so quick to jump at and want to help you and to teach you something. I learned, one, how to communicate, to not be afraid to ask for help or to ask a question. And I also learned how to be prepared, how to have a plan A, B, C, D, or E. Because I watch these people always have a plan, always have an answer to a question that I didn't even think somebody was going to ask. So I would say the communication and preparation part for me was something that I got from there that is just so invaluable that I don't think I would have received anywhere else if I had worked anywhere else at that time in my life.
Okay, and I know I was watching like one of your interviews where you were talking about, I forget which show it was that you were working on. You said you had to make like fruit plates, and you said, I'm going to make like the best fruit
yeah.
plates.
When I was, at the Daily Show, while I was there, learned how to, do the best job that you can do no matter what the task is, like give it 110%. And that was something that led to me, working at Colbert's, because whether you needed me, the fruit plate is the perfect example, because that was the task that I had when I was in the control room. I didn't have to sit on the computer and type anything or write, like that was not it. My job was, I think, to run scripts. This was so long ago, but the most vivid memory I have in my mind is I had to go to the grocery store, buy fruit, and assemble it nicely so everyone that's coming in and out of the control room or walking past can grab it. And I knew I just had to make it look good. I was like, like, this is what I'm tasked with as an intern. I'm not going to treat it like, oh, it's just fruit, like whatever. Like, no, I want people to know and remember that this girl works hard. No matter what job you give her, no matter what task you give her, she's going to give it 100%. She's going to treat it like it's important because it is important. And so definitely, the fruit plate, I love that story because it's definitely, it was a big deal to me at the time.
And that taps into like, I'm going to get into it a little later, but like one of your pillars of the Gumbo is like creative excellence. But I think that taps into excellence, but I'm going to get to that a little later.
Okay.
And so I know in 2018, which we talked about a little, you launched the Gumbo, which is a club by and for Black women who love hip hop. And you talked a little bit about, the inspiration behind the name, but you said the name came to you in a dream because gumbo is a word that describes a bunch of different things coming together to make something good, which to you is hip hop. Yeah. And so when thinking about the Gumbo platform in itself, the Gumbo is also that. You've brought different people together to build a team. You've produced content, curated experiences to create this space you've envisioned. So walk me through the process of building out this platform and then bringing together different people and things to make something good.
Yeah, it was really hard. I always tell people I saved up all my checks in the beginning of my time working at the Late Show because I knew it was something that I wanted to do. Excuse me. And just also knowing that there were so many great Black women out there doing great work and writing great things that weren't always getting the opportunities or weren't always getting compensated. I think that was one of the biggest things I saw kind of near the end of my time at Rutgers and even fresh out of school. I knew so many women who could write extremely well and who were perfect for these jobs that were going up. Like that rush when you're right out of college, you're like, I gotta get a job. Like those first those months are so hectic. And I remember, hearing from different people and friends and they're like, yeah, I didn't get it. I'm like, how? Like, how did you not get this opportunity? And if you are getting an opportunity, you're not getting paid for it. Like it just bothered me. So I saved up so much money, saved up money for my checks. I want to say from the first year I worked at the Late Show to launch it. And I literally just put out a call on what was then Twitter, just asking for writers and kind of just being in community with people and also being in online community with people, knowing who to reach out to for certain things. One of my friends who I know from home in Jersey and also went to school with, she DJs, so she would DJ the Sample Sunday events and then she became lead creative director. Like it's just stuff like that. Having Brooklyn come on and edit and have her own column called The Rue, and she's such an amazing writer. Like there's just so many things that for me, I was like, I just want to tap into my community and also have people tap into their communities, and whoever can write or DJ or whatever it is, like, let's try to work with them and also make sure we can pay them, which is one of the biggest things for me, is paying people for their work.
We appreciate that because people deserve to be paid.
Yeah.
And so, like I touched on a little bit, when reading through the description of the Gumbo on your site, there were some pillars that stood out to me. And those pillars were innovation, creative excellence, activism, and haven. So talk to me a little bit about what each of these pillars mean to the brand and your approach to each of them.
Yeah, the innovation part is because I did not want the Gumbo to be a website where you got your daily news. Those platforms exist. I don't need to, and I always say this, we don't need to write an article that Megan Thee Stallion dropped an album. Like, she posted it. Like, everyone knows, like, for me personally, like, those platforms exist to tell you that. But I'm like, how are we actually innovating within this space? And there's such a great article that one of my friends, awesome writer Fulamusu, wrote about how Megan Thee Stallion kind of helped her with body positivity, you know, and having that piece, I was like, this is not something I would read anywhere else. Like, I would like to pay you to write this for us. So that for me was the innovation part. Creative excellence, I think, is just doing everything to the best of your ability, you know, making something great and not half doing it. Yeah, let's be very excellent. The activism part, it's so important to me, and I guess this is kind of intertwined with the safe haven part, because especially when we started doing in-person events, I wanted to make sure that when people came to an event like a Sample Sunday or Women's History Month event or whatever it was we were a part of, that they felt safe. I think there have been many times where you go to different events and you might not be scared to walk in, but you're just like, oh, wonder what's going to happen today? Like, what are we going to see at this function? Like, that's kind of like a thought that you have. It's not a pressing thought. It's not at the forefront of your mind, but I knew that I wanted to kind of have a place where we could be safe, especially because in so many other places in the world we aren't safe, and we feel like we can be ourselves truly, and we can dance freely and talk freely and mingle free, like just do everything in a way where we feel free and comfortable. And the activism part is to really challenge whatever notions and isms are out there that are meant to kind of obstruct us and stop us in our paths along the way. And a lot of the content on the site, and even what I talk about in the book, sometimes people might not want to say, or people have not even thought about saying about a specific topic. And I knew, kind of tied to that innovation part, if I was going to do this and bring in people to do this, let's make sure we really have something to say and to add.
Yeah. And I think just like the whole platform, I never made it myself to a Sample Sunday, but I remember when I saw it, I was like, that's so cool.
Oh, yes. We love those sample parties. People have been asking. I'm like, people are going to watch it like, when is the next one? Just be patient, y'all.
No pressure, no pressure. I just think that's
no,
so
I got
cool,
but I got you though. We got you.
Okay, you said coming up.
Yes. I
Okay.
hate doing a tease of a tease, because then everybody's like, all right, well, you said, but it's something that I have missed, and working on that book took so much energy out of me. So yeah,
I understand, but I think that's so cool. Like just like the 360 approach. It's not like just like I'm writing this, I'm doing this. It's like there's immersive. You know, you're going to the events, you're reading like these different articles. So and like the podcast, and so that's
exactly.
super cool.
Yeah, we did do a podcast. That is every day. I'm like, oh my gosh, that did happen.
It did. And so, in the Gumbo, you said you also aim for a reimagining of women and their relationship with hip hop. So in your ideal world, what would the relationship between Black women and hip hop look like?
One that makes us or allows us to correctly look like the innovators and creators that we are. One of the biggest things I remember, and this has kind of always been something because I just know so much about hip hop. Four things I know a lot about. I know a lot about TV, I know a lot about film, I know a lot about Philadelphia Phillies baseball, and I know a lot about hip hop. And those last two, as a woman, you know, when it comes to sports and when it comes to hip hop specifically, men like to quiz you. They like to see if you really know what you're talking about. Are you really representing in the way that we would like? And yeah, I was just like, why do I have to be quizzed about something that I'm a part of? You know, like, it's a part of our culture. It's a part of American history. It's a part of our world. It's something that we helped create, and specifically the actual physical women and innovators who were there, or the foremothers prior to the 1970s. Like, let's not just treat these amazing men who, you know, we credit with this creation as the only people who were a part of the foundations of hip hop. So I love highlighting an amazing person like Kool Herc, and also highlighting his sister, Cindy Campbell, and telling people, like, do y'all know that she threw that party that we celebrate this, you know, birthday on? Like, that was the biggest thing for me, is just making sure we're actively participating and not being treated as like outsiders or just general consumers of this culture.
Yeah. And I think that's super important too. Like you were saying, like I remember I think it was the first chapter of the book, right? We talked about Cindy Campbell, right?
Yeah.
That was the first chapter?
I'm pretty sure, yes. Yeah, I'm like, here's the thing. Because I've moved so many chapters in that book around so many times, yes, that is the first, because I'm like, I did Millie after.
Yeah, she wasn't the first. Millie was definitely not the first.
Yeah. I went back and forth between that a lot.
Oh, I think she was a good way to start it, because it's the first hip hop party, you know?
Exactly.
So I think that's a way to start first.
Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then and then also I know you had mentioned baseball. I wonder if there's like I don't know if there's an idea, but that's like a cool
I promise you there are many ideas in my brain. I have tried to think about, and I have thought about and put pen to paper on ways that I could do something with my team. That would be great. So yes, send all the good vibes in the air.
Okay. Coming, like Sample Sundays, coming next.
Yep.
And then before we moved on, I had a fun question. So I talked about like the inspiration for the title of the Gumbo, but in the spirit of bringing together different people or things to make something good, let's say you hypothetically have to curate a 2025 all-women Cypher. You have 5 slots. And we're going to pick new era rappers. You have 5 slots.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's hard to say like any era, or would that be easy?
Yeah, because I had two that immediately was put there.
Okay, any era. So 2025 all women Cypher. Who are you picking? 5 slots.
I want Missy.
Okay.
I want Missy. I'm like, should I not pick all my faves? Because then I'm like Missy and Kim. I want Missy. I want Foxy, because we have not heard from Foxy in so long.
Yeah.
I would love that. I would love Lotto.
Okay.
I would love... Oh, this is so tough. I would love Doechii.
Yes, okay.
Who did I say? I said Missy. Here's the thing, because I want MC Lyte and Lil' Kim in there, but now I'm like, this is getting bigger. So let's say me not picking all of my faves. I have one more slot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Let me pick a newer person. Meg is also one of my faves. That's why I'm trying to not be like, oh, I'll put in
It's your Cypher. You can pick whoever
I know,
you want.
yeah. I also want to, I guess the other part about the curation of this is I want to put in people, even though we see, like, Doechii has blown up, but I'm like, I want to see interactions that I just, like, might never see, you know? Like,
Yeah.
or maybe we will, because Doechii and Missy, I feel like they could link up. They're on the same wavelength, actually.
Persuasive, I was like, this is giving Missy.
Yeah. This is, honestly, you stumped me, because this last spot, I really am like, oh my gosh, who do I give this to?
I tried to make it easier by saying new era, but I'll let you do it.
Yeah. I might, honestly, I'll do Flo Milli.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That'd be an interesting session.
Yes, I was like, let me not do all my usuals. Let me mix it up a little bit. Even though, of course, I threw my Queen Missy in there. That's another one that I should have mentioned, who I love, of course. Yeah, I feel like that'd be a cool cipher. I feel like that would be different. I feel like it would be funky. I feel like we would get some Southern style. Like I want to get so many different elements, and then Foxy, like.
Yeah.
Another one. Love her.
I feel like people would just tune in to see her, like, see what Foxy has
Exactly. That's why I was like, I could pick, like, the 5 most popular people from each era, but I'm just like, we'll see it, of course, but it's not going to be like, because you see them a lot. I want to give people something that they won't see. So, yeah, I would do that.
I would tune into that.
Hey.
So now we're going to get into your book. So 5 years after launching the Gumbo, you released your first book, which I showed already.
Crazy. Cannot believe.
First.
So crazy seeing people hold that still.
Oh, yes. It's beautiful. I've seen it, like, before I realized that you wrote it, I used to always see this at the bookstore. And then I was like, oh.
Oh, my gosh.
I see it around a lot, yeah.
I love that.
But you wrote your first book, First Things First, Hip Hop Ladies Who Changed the Game, which is a book that showcases literal and figurative firsts of women in hip hop. So this book doesn't just cover rappers, but it covers stylists, party promoters, radio hosts, etc. So what was the inspiration behind this book, and what was the catalyst for you to write it?
The inspiration, probably because I feel like, kind of to the point of why I started the Gumbo, is I know that so often hip-hop is just, I don't want to say just, but it is regarded as simply music, whereas I think there's just so much to it. And like I said, for someone like me who loves TV and loves movies, like I see the connections in hip-hop with all of those different worlds. And I'm like, people don't know as much about these things as they do the music. Like, I feel like that's important to know as much as about Wild Style as you do about, you know, all these different albums that came out in the early aughts. Like, that's so important to me. So I knew that I just wanted to tell kind of the stories I've been telling with the Gumbo, but also to really kind of show off another side of, like, my history knowledge and skill, because I wanted to be able to talk about the fashion and get to talk to Miss April Walker. I wanted to be able to talk about the films and talk about Wild Style. I wanted to be able to talk to the creators of Honey Magazine and talk about the print element of hip hop. Like, there's so many different things that are like connected, and I wanted to be able to kind of tell that story and also tell the story of women in hip hop in a different way. We love first so much, especially on the internet. We love saying, this is the first here, this is the first, this is the first. And we should acknowledge the first, because those first are so important. I also had the idea in my head, like, there are some firsts that, like, you can't really quantify. You can't, like, go on the RIAA website and, like, look this up and verify this. I was like, but there is a person who did do this that should be acknowledged. There are these metaphorical firsts, like I write about in the book, that, okay, Missy Elliott didn't go to outer space for real. Like, we know that. But her doing that as a woman in hip-hop at that time, she was the first of her kind. And that is very important to highlight, to show her influence. And I really wanted to show people not just that these are the first people to do these things, but also so you can have an understanding for the foundation, because the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth women are just as important as the first. I just want people to understand the foundations of women in hip-hop across all realms. And yeah, for people to know what they do. And then what was the other part? How did this opportunity come about?
What was the catalyst?
Yeah, the catalyst. I got the opportunity to write a blurb in Shea Serrano's Hip Hop and Other Things. His book, he's a New York Times bestselling author, amazing. Literally have, like, talked to him on Twitter, and we kind of built, like, this, like, online, like, friendship. And he asked me to write this blurb for the book, and I was like, okay, like, that's crazy. Like, that's cool. So I wrote something for his book, and then after that, because we were still in the height of COVID, really, at that time, where we were being mindful of social distancing. So he had a virtual book release event that he asked me to like host. He was like, we're literally just gonna get on there and talk about hip hop like we do. He was like, that's what we're gonna do. He's like, don't worry about anything else. Like, we're just gonna chat. And after that, his editor reached out to me. He's like, hey, like, one, thank you for doing that, but also I know about the Gumbo. Like, do you want to write a book? Like, it really kind of just came about that way. And I was like, yeah, like, I actually really, really do. That's on like my vision board or something I want to do. So we dialogued a little bit. I had some ideas. We kind of workshopped this one idea that he really liked. And then he was like, yeah, the publishing company would like to do this. So let's do it. So that's really how it came about. Very, not the conventional way or not even the conventional way that I thought I would follow to like get an opportunity like this, but very, very grateful to Shay, one, because I would have never even had the opportunity to write anything for a book or even connect with that editor had it not been for him. And very grateful for my editor, Sean, who like saw something in me that made him feel like I could write the thousands of words that I wrote. So, yeah.
Yes, writing a book is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's
looks
not.
hard.
No.
I have not written a book, but it looks hard. So I respect.
It was hard. It was very rewarding and hard. Yeah, I guess.
But I think like just the idea behind the book, like real first, and then like your opinion at first. I think it's like a super cool approach.
Thank you.
And so I also know like you have experience. You talked about like experience in different mediums like TV. So when it comes to mediums through which people can get information, we all digest each medium differently. Like you're not going to write a book the same way you write a song or you like produce a show. So how has your knowledge and experiences with other mediums influenced the way you approach writing first things first?
I was always thinking about the different ways that like people retain information. And when I thought about even at different Sample Sunday events, like talking to people about a specific artist that was playing that they might not have heard of, the memory that people, I would say the remembrance factor, it was so much higher when it was like conversational, and I know that sometimes even for myself, like I remember a lot when I am actually engrossed in a real conversation versus just being talked at or having so many facts spit at me. I also honestly looked at different statistics about how people retain information. What is the best way for someone to retain something? And I went and read through all of that, and I really was like, okay, I want to make a book that truly sounds like me talking to you. Even if you've never heard me talk a day in your life, you feel like you're in conversation with someone so that you do feel like you can actually remember what you're being told and maybe a date or a day or a specific moment versus me just knocking down a bunch of history facts, which don't get me wrong, I love that. I love consuming information like that. I think that that is so important. I wanted to find a way to kind of mesh that with my style of writing and kind of just who I am as a person. I'm very conversational. I like to be silly. I like to tell little jokes in the middle of something. And I knew that if I was going to do a book, I wanted to do it in a way that was really authentic to me and authentic to the way I tell stories and I relay different histories so that other people can remember them.
Yeah, and I think the book too is like you have, let me see, like you have the interludes and stuff. So you kind of, and like you have it, as the track list in the book. So I think that makes it like relating to the medium. I guess you're writing about music, but you're also writing like in that vibe too, if that makes sense.
Exactly.
Which I think is super cool.
Thank you.
That's cool. And so one of the things you talk about in the book is space and how it's the reason for lack of accreditation to women for their accomplishments in hip hop. So let's take men out of the picture for a second and just getting into the space of women in hip hop itself, specifically rappers. There's a strong attention to specific rappers that people would consider more mainstream, but there's such a plethora of women rappers, There's backpack rappers, experimental rappers, eccentric rappers, Christian rappers. So how do we ensure that we make equal space for women rappers across the entire creative spectrum to be heard and appreciated at a higher level?
Absolutely. Share it with your people. There's always one person out of however many people amongst a group, if 9 of them love mainstream, there's one person who loves quote unquote backpack or underground or maybe not as mainstream. My thing is just be a big advocate for the stuff that you like. Especially now, and even with the internet and social media, sometimes we're kind of, I don't want to say forced, but the algorithms force us to like the mainstream because the mainstream gets the most clicks, the most views, the most likes. Like that's just what it is. That's the nature of not just the algorithm, that's the name of the game, unfortunately. But if you're listening to this or watching this and you're a fan of something that's different, advocate for it. Buy that artist or that person, whoever it is, buy their stuff. If it is a Bandcamp Friday and they release an album on their own on Bandcamp independently, go buy the album, go post it in your story. If they drop a piece of merch, go buy that t-shirt. And if you can't, share it with someone. Even if you aren't grabbing up every single thing or swiping your card at every single moment, just that word of mouth can really, really help spread the names of all of these different people in all these different spaces within hip hop. And I think that's the biggest thing is sometimes we get so caught up in the mainstream because the mainstream is made for you to get caught up in. That's just the name of the game. But if you really like something that you are passionate about, don't be afraid to share it with people because sharing it with people is how it does spread and how it keeps what they're doing alive.
Yeah, I agree. So, since your book also recognizes women in hip hop that play roles outside of just rapping, who are some women in hip hop today that you want to shine a light on that are touching the genre in other ways, whether it be DJs, producers, directors, stylists, etc.?
Yeah, I would say DJ Miss Milan for sure. She's worked with Sweetie and now is with Doechii, and she's just amazing to me. Like getting to see her shine. She's so talented. She's so knowledgeable. Just like such a great person. I just love whenever I see her out somewhere on stage or DJing. She deserves it all. I would say a legend, but Danielle Smith, one of the most important writers to me, period, within not just hip-hop journalism, but within journalism, the way that she writes and the attention that she pays to the subjects, the way she tells stories, like it is so unmatched that I love all the work that she's done. A woman like Dee Barnes, I know I have the chapter on her in the book about Pump It Up, but when you think about her legacy and her work and, being the first of her kind on broadcast television to talk about hip hop, like that wasn't happening in that realm and in that space with anyone that looked like her. She is just so important. I feel like I could run down so many names, but to not risk forgetting someone, I would just say all of the writers and DJs and radio hosts and podcast hosts, and the video vixens. I don't want to name any names because I'll leave some out for sure. There are so many, but the video vixens, they are, I remember seeing an article about, and I can't remember who wrote it, but I don't even want to, get the wrong attribution, but it talked about just the impact of video vixens. And I remember growing up and seeing them and thinking they were also so cool and knowing what it meant to have one of the most popular women standing at the forefront of your video or being on the front of your magazine, like what that meant and how that generated dollars for these companies and these brands and for these artists. I think they are often left out of the conversation. I know there are, I think, a few docs on them, but so much of what we kind of know and see today, even when I think about the internet, like the video vixens are owed a lot. So I have so many names and I'm like, it would be just my luck that I'll forget one name and be like, Cam, can we record again? And then 2 days later I'll be like, actually I got 2 more. So I don't even want to risk forgetting a name, but the list, the women that I named, and the list is just endless.
Yeah, I know, like, asking that question, there's going to be a lot of people. I know there's no way to name everybody.
Literally 100 popped in my head. I was like, oh my God, ooh.
So why did you ask me this question?
No, it's okay.
And so now going through, talking about first things first, going through these different literal and figurative firsts in your book, what are some firsts of women in hip hop that have not yet been achieved that you hope to see in your lifetime?
Oh, that's a good question because I feel like I don't even know the first until it happens, and I'm like, dang, like we haven't seen that yet,
Yeah.
So I can't really even think of one off the top of my head, even like through the research of the book where I was like, oh, this hasn't happened yet. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I guess the one thing I would say, and it's not really a first, so not really a direct answer to your question, but I would like to see more women win awards for their albums, for full bodies of work. We can have all the dialogue we want about whether awards matter a lot or whether they mean anything, how people feel about the different, places where you get awards from. But I think if we're going to be giving out awards, I just want people to know that women in rap aren't just making great singles, they're making great bodies of work. And I would really like for that to be recognized more. I don't know off the top of my head what the stats are. I mean, obviously we know about Lauren and her Grammy win for the Miseducation. So we know that she was the one to do that. But if we're going to have, people after that or getting awards from other places, whether they're the first at that place or wherever it is. And that's not to say it's never happened, but I would just like to see that more. And I guess maybe a flip of your question is I would like to see a lot of these women get their first acknowledgments or achievements for these bodies of work. I think women in rap are making such great, solid, top to bottom bodies of work. And I would just really like that to be celebrated. So give them some first, whatever pieces of hardware it is for that. Give them their first. How about that?
Okay, I like that. And I feel like people, whenever, like, no matter how many awards they win, they always remember, like, the first one.
Exactly,
Like
yeah.
So, I like that. Okay. And so, through your work as a journalist, your history in journalism, entrepreneur, author, you are overall a hip hop archivist. So, as a Black woman in America, you've spoken about not knowing where you come from because it wasn't archived or documented. So, when it comes to women in hip hop, how important do you think the knowledge of their history in helping them project and protect their future?
Yeah, the one thing I always say is we got to have physical copies of our stuff. And whether it's actually in front of you or it's in front of you and also scanned somewhere on a USB or a hard drive or a cloud, I believe we should have all those things. When I speak about my history in particular, I was able to learn so much about my ancestors and where they came from in South Carolina and parts of North Carolina because we had those records. But sometimes you come across a picture and there's no name on it. And there's no way for me to really go online and figure out who this person is. And that's a testament to people just not seeing the value in recording our history at certain points in time, or not having the means, or not having the tools, or not having maybe a set space where they could keep certain items or certain heirlooms. And I think so specifically about, even if you go on Instagram today, you'll see a lot of our legendary women in rap posting flyers from the early 70s. Like, hey, I was here on this, I'm on this flyer, I was MCing, I was doing it. Like, that is so important because, and it's unfortunate. I'll say it's great and it's unfortunate. It's great because we have that recorded piece of history. It's unfortunate that without that, people might not even believe that was true. You get what I'm saying? So we have those recorded pieces and we're able to put an actual physical piece to, hey, this is what was going on at this time and this is what was being said. So yeah, I just think all in all, when I think about my history and I think about the history of women in hip hop, like have records of your stuff, like, and to people in general, even if you are not in any entertainment or archiving space, nothing like that, just save your stuff.
Yeah, that's important. I remember I forgot what interview, and I forgot what the name of the woman was. I forget if it was you talking about it or if it was the guy that was interviewing you, or talking about the woman that used to have like all the tapes. What was it like? Some newscast or something. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my gosh. It's the documentary is called The Recorder, I want to
Yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah,
The
yeah.
woman in Philadelphia, and she recorded like every news story, like everything on her TV for years. You could watch that documentary. I forget where I watched it at, but you can just type it online. I hate that I can't remember her name right now. But even that, to me, I was just like, she had stuff that the companies were coming to her and her family years later and saying, like, we literally don't have this. Can we, like,
Can you
get
give
this?
it
Like,
to
is
us,
that,
please?
yeah, like, that is, yeah, save your stuff. And if you have an interest in something that, again, it's not a job, you're not an entrepreneur, like, it's nothing that's making you money, it's just a hobby, save it. If you like flowers, take pictures of those flowers and save them. Like, you don't know what will be here 10 years or 15 years from now that you will have a record of. So save your stuff.
Say yes, that's important. And so, as a Black woman that has envisioned musical spaces and projects and built them from the ground up, what is one practical piece of advice you would give to women that hope to do the same?
Relax. Relax. I mean that quite literally and physically. Sometimes you'll have an idea and you'll want to just get it out there because you have this idea in the moment, and you can rush some things. And of course, whenever you do something for the first time, you're going to learn from it. There will be some mistakes, you'll get to fix it for the next time, whatever. But don't feel pressured, especially the way the world is now. And I always think about social media and just how it's kind of just like, you gotta do it, right now, you gotta do this right now, then tomorrow you got, like, just relax. You'll probably deliver something better if you relax. And same with even the book. I made a conscious decision to relax while I worked on the book. When I say relax, I mean I'm not going to burn myself out running this business at this level while also trying to produce a really great book that I feel like people deserve. And who knows what first things first would be like had I not relaxed, had I been on overdrive. Who knows what that would have been, you know? So I think that's the biggest thing, is just take it at your own pace. Now don't chill. That's what I'll say. Don't chill. When I say relax, I don't mean just chilling like, oh, I can do it next week. That's not what I'm saying. Make sure you have a plan and you map it out. But don't get so caught up in having to do, because it's just going to burn you out and you're not going to deliver the best product that you could. So definitely relax, but don't chill out every day. Get the work done.
Okay, so relax and chill are not synonymous.
To me, they're not. I'm like, now I could probably go look this up on dictionary.com, and I'm like, what if it says the same thing? But like, just
No, I get what you're saying.
relax.
I get what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah.
And then, what's up next for you? What's up next for the Gumbo? Anything else you want to tell us?
Yeah, well, I don't like to tease people, but I will say one of the things I always tell people, I remember when Solange launched her platform and how it kind of, there were so many articles on her website, and there was so much there that was informed by the Black musical process. And now you see her doing all these different events. Like, I saw one of her events a few months ago in October where she had like Bilal perform. Like, she has her hands in so many different things, and that's really what I want the Gumbo to be. I want us to build upon what we've already done, but I really do want to build it out into this kind of worldwide ecosystem where you get a sample Sunday, or you get this type of event, or maybe you get this, or maybe you'll read this piece. Like, I really want it to exist in a way that she's kind of modeled for me. She's someone who I look up to, and seeing what she's done with St. Heron has been so pivotal and kind of how I inform what I want to do with just any platform. So yeah, that's really next for me. And documenting a lot more Black history. I've already had a few things that I've just been thinking about and working on when it comes to Black history in general. I feel like things that are happening or make me feel like, oh, okay, I'm on the right path. But I really do want to, I want to document Black history a lot more than I already am. So that's something that I'm just going to be working on for sure.
Okay. Okay. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for the things you're not teasing that we will see one day.
Thank you.
And then lastly, let us know where we can follow you, the Gumbo, where can we buy your book?
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram at hinadirah.com. It's HINADIRAH. I've definitely had people think that that was my full name, but it is Hi Nadirah. Hi Nadirah. Same on X if y'all are on X or Threads. And you can get First Things First, Hip Hop Ladies Who Changed the Game, wherever you like to get your books, I also would love to encourage anyone who listens to please support their local bookstore. We love our local bookstores. We love our small, independent owned bookstores. Like, please support them because they are the core of so many communities and they're necessary. So yes, if you can get it from there, I'd love that too.
And then the Gumbo. Tell us where we could follow.
Yeah, so the Gumbo is at THEGUMBO. That is on Instagram. And then, of course, you can go to www.thegumbo.net.
Great. Well,
yeah. And thank you so much. Yes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I really love getting to talk about the book. So this was very, very nice to me. And it also makes me feel like I'm on the right path with the stuff that I'm doing. So I really appreciate you.
Yes, I appreciate you for taking the time. I think what you're doing is super cool, like the spaces you're creating. The book, I enjoyed reading it. It's pretty too.
Yes, thank you.
So I like learning, about music too. So
yeah.
I think that's super cool.